Bazz. Bazzard Black, Bazado Baraku, more commonly known as Bazz, Bazubi, is a Quincy and a member of the Wandenreka's Stern Ritter, with the designation H, the Heat. Bazz was the son of a lord. As a young boy Bazz followed Jugram Hashwalth when the latter was hunting rabbits, one of which he shot with his spirit weapon after Hashwalth failed to do so himself. Bazz criticized Hashwalth's skill, and when asked who he was, told Hashwalth to introduce himself first while inadvertently revealing his own name, prompting Hashwalth to introduce himself in turn. Noting Hashwalth's cunning in getting him to introduce himself first, Bazz explained that he has been following Hashwalth because he did not think the latter could hunt anything himself. However, Hashwalth noted that he could not even form a Heilig Bogen like Bazz could yet, which prompted Bazz to claim no one else could do it because he is a genius, which was why Hashwalth should not feel bad. Admitting this was true, Hashwalth asked Bazz to stop calling him Yugo before revealing that he lived with his uncle. Hashwalth explained how he needed to catch at least one rabbit and began to walk away, but Bazz threw the rabbit he killed at Hashwalth's head and claimed he was not hunting for sustenance anyway before tossing his shield away. Climbing up a tree, Bazz told Hashwalth that he would teach him whatever he wanted to know and that they would be the strongest Quincies around before leaping away. Half a year later, Yawach began conquering the northern lands where Bazz's village was located, during which he burned down Bazz's village and the nearby forest. Afterward, Bazz told Hashwalth that they would kill Yawach, but when Hashwalth questioned whether he had to come with him, Bazz pointed out how Yawach also burned down his forest before telling him to live with his uncle if he was okay with this, only for Hashwalth to reveal his uncle died in the fire as well. Bazz and Hashwalth used the money they found in the remains of the village to survive and train for 5 years in order to kill Yawach. As the years passed, Bazz's training went fine, but he expressed concern for Hashwalth due to the latter's inability to manipulate Raisher. Bazz theorized that Hashwalth was the Quincy rumored to be born every 10 years who was incomplete, but acknowledged his efforts toward compensating for this by honing his other combat skills and decided that he could not abandon him despite this. Eventually, Yawach's personal guard came to a nearby village to announce the formation of the Stern Ritter, and upon hearing of this, Bazz enthusiastically introduced himself and Hashwalth as willing candidates. However, upon being rejected by Hubert, who claimed he would not perform very well in the upcoming examinations, Bazz challenged him to combat in order to take his position. As the two prepared to fight, Yawach arrived and pinned everyone to the ground with his Ryatsu before revealing that he was seeking a right-hand man. Seeing his opportunity, Bazz attempted to draw his attention, but was shocked and Yawach selected Hashwalth, his other half, instead. Watching as Yawach declared Hashwalth would join the Stern Ritter, Bazz was outraged that Hashwalth had been selected over him and noted that he had always been the prodigy between them. However, he was shocked and Hashwalth told Yawach to take him as his right-hand man instead, and was even more surprised when Yawach revealed Hashwalth had the ability to give power to others and had been doing so the entire time he had been with Bazz, contributing to his prodigal powers. Upon hearing this, an outraged Bazz fired a Heilig file at Yawach, but Hashwalth intercepted and caught it with his hand. 3 years later, Bazz joined the Stern Ritter and challenged Hashwalth to combat multiple times in order to prove his superiority, only for Hashwalth to refuse every time due to a fight between Stern Ritter being punishable by death. Appearance: Bazz has green eyes and keeps his red hair in a long mohawk and has 2 metal nuts pierced into his upper left ear, and a bolt through his lower right ear. After getting burned by Yamamoto, his mohawk was damaged and is now more unkempt and slightly damaged. His attire is a variation of the Stern Ritter's typical white uniform, consisting of the Order's signature hooded cloak, a thigh-length trench coat, black gloves, and pants which are cropped just above a pair of black military boots. He wears a thin chain with the Wandenrake emblem attached to it around his neck and black armbands around his biceps, with a skull and cross bones design on it. As a child, Bazz wore a helmet with a stylized V inscribed on the front and a longitudinal crest on the top, a red cape attached to his shoulders by 2 pins, each inscribed with the same stylized V, black gloves, a breastplate held up by 2 black shoulder straps with a large, stylized V inscribed on it over a dress shirt, black pants, and white shoes. He also had a full head of hair, which was spiky and unkempt. As a teenager, Bazz wore a light-colored dress shirt with a black collar, black gloves, and black pants with white pockets, as well as black shoes. As a Stern Ritter 1,000 years ago, Bazz wore the standard Wandenrake outfit. Personality: Bazz is a very harsh, hot-headed young man, quick to speak out against something which troubles him. He holds Jugram Hashwalth in high regard, and is loyal to Yawach, willing to fight powerful enemies such as Captain Commander Genryosai Shigekuni Yamamoto for him. Bazz is a very merciless individual, crushing the head of a wounded Shinigami crying for help under his foot. He is quite sarcastic, as evidenced when he tells 10th Division Captain Toshiro Hitsugaya he believes the two of them are a good match because his fire will melt Hitsugaya's ice. He has the utmost confidence in his flames, bragging about being able to fend off Yamamoto's flames and claiming he could defeat Hitsugaya with a single finger, even if the captain was still in possession of his Bankai. Bazz takes great pride in his mohawk, and is easily angered by others insulting it, going so far as to use Burner Finger 4 against the offending party. Aside from Yawatch and Hashwolf, he has little compassion for his comrades. When Tsang-Du was encased in ice by Hitsugaya, Bazz mocked him before leaving. He mercilessly shot 4 of his fellow Stern Ritter with Burner Finger 1 in order to fight Ichigo Kurosaki, as he believes the right to steal someone's prey lies with the one who arrives last. He is, however, willing to protect his fellow Stern Ritter when necessary. Despite Bazz's steadfast loyalty to Yawatch, he is not blindly faithful, and tends to act on his own volition whenever he feels he must. When dissatisfied with Yawatch's choice of successor, Bazz attempted to barge into his king's chambers to complain despite being told earlier that arguments will not be tolerated. When Yawatch used Bazz, along with several others, as sacrifices for the Oswalin to bring back the fallen Schutzstaffel, along with attempting to destroy the entire world, which would mean the death of all the Stern Ritter as well, Bazz felt betrayed and swore to survive this ordeal so he can kill Yawatch in revenge. As a child, Bazz was very proud of himself and his abilities, going so far as to call himself the Great Bazz, and would not hesitate to call those weaker than him losers or himself a genius because of his prowess. However, he also displayed concern for those weaker than him, such as Hashwolf, and would watch over them. This led him to take Hashwolf under his wing and teach him all he wanted to know, as well as give him the rabbit Bazz himself had killed so he could take it home to his uncle and not be punished for failing to hunt one himself. As a teenager, Bazz had already begun developing his hot-headed personality, having challenged a member of Yawatch's personal guard to combat in order to take his position after the latter insulted him. Powers and abilities. The heat, Zahito, Japanese for scorching heat. By manipulating Raisher in the air, Bazz can generate flames and launch them toward an opponent. His flames are powerful enough to offset those generated by Captain Commander Genryosei Shigekuni Yamamoto's Ryujin Jaka. Doing so allowed Bazz and his fellow Stern Ritter to survive a direct attack with only moderate injuries. Bazz claims he only needs one finger to melt the ice created by 10th Division Captain Hitsugaya's Bankai. Bazz can also manipulate his flames to effortlessly slash through Hitsugaya's ice. Burner Finger 1, Bana Finger 1 pointing his finger at his opponent, Bazz launches a narrow beam of fire. It is strong enough to easily pierce through a captain-class Shinigami like Hitsugaya. Burner Finger 2, Bana Finger 2 Bazz concentrates the power of his flames into 2 fingers, causing them to leave a trail of fire behind in the air, before swinging them at an opponent, creating a large explosion and inflicting considerable damage on the surrounding area. This technique is strong enough to heavily injure a captain-class Shinigami like Hitsugaya and easily burn through his Zanpakuto. Burner Finger 3, Bana Finger Suri By pointing 3 fingers at a surface, Bazz can melt solid structures into lava that he claims can reduce a person to bones in a second. Burner Finger 4, Bana Finger FO Pointing all of his fingers except his thumb forward, Bazz creates a large blade of fire with an elongated crossguard around his hand before slashing at his opponent, creating a massive explosion. The sword can also be used to cut through large objects, such as pillars. Burning Full Fingers, Baningu Furu Fingazu generating fire around all 5 fingertips on one hand, Bazz unleashes a torrent of flame in a spiraling cone in front of him. Burning Stomp, Baningu Sutanpu Bazz stomps the ground, releasing a torrent of fire and heat which sweeps over the surrounding area. Expert Marksman, Bazz possesses considerable skill in aiming and firing his attacks, piercing 4 other Stern Ritter from a considerable distance with separate Burner Finger 1 attacks. Great Spiritual Power, Bazz's spiritual power is on a level comparable to or greater than that of a captain-level Shinigami. This is proven when he defeats 10th Division Captain Toshiro Hitsugaya. Even as a child, Bazz possessed considerable power, as demonstrated when he managed to withstand the crushing force of Yawatch's Ryatsu and push himself off the ground while almost everyone else around him was rendered unable to move. Raisher Manipulation, as a Quincy, he possesses the ability to absorb Raisher from the atmosphere, and combine it with his own spiritual energy to form weapons. He has an easier time collecting this energy in environments with higher concentrations of Raisher such as in Soul Society or Hueco Mundo. Even as a child, Bazz possessed remarkable skill in shaping Raisher into objects, being the only one his age who could create a Heilig Bogen. His skill continued to increase during the 5 years he spent training to kill Yawatch, but this was largely due to Hashwolf, whose ability to grant power to others greatly empowered Bazz. Hirenkyaku expert, Bazz is highly skilled in the use of this technique, dispatching 3 high-ranking seated officers of the 3rd Division in quick succession without any of them having the opportunity to react. Enhanced strength, Bazz possesses great physical strength, simultaneously driving the heads of 2 Shinigami through solid stone with just a single blow from either hand and casually crushing another Shinigami's head underfoot. Enhanced durability, Bazz possesses considerable durability, remaining virtually uninjured after being hit by Hitsugaya Shinku no Kori no Yaiba. Enhanced endurance, Bazz possesses a tremendous tolerance towards pain, which he exhibited when he was slashed by Hashwolf across the chest and was later smashed through a wall, but still kept fighting despite his deep wounds. Even when Hashwolf cut off his arm and dealt a decisive blow, Bazz did not visibly react to the pain. Spirit weapon. Heilig Bogen, Heirihi Bogen, German for Holy Bow, Japanese for Sacred Bow. Bazz's preferred weapon takes the form of a long crossbow with a handle shaped like that of a handgun. He could create and wield this weapon even as a child. Heilig Pfeil, Heirihi Puferu, German for Holy Arrow, Japanese for Sacred Destruction Arrows. Bazz can gather Raisher from his surroundings and condense it into the form of arrows before firing them from his crossbow. They are very fast and powerful, a single arrow having dispatched a Shinigami lieutenant before he could even react while destroying an entire arm and much of his upper torso. They can also blow a large, clean hole through a wall. They are shaped like normal arrows, including feather-like protrusions on the side of the blunt end. Former powers and abilities. Quincy, Volstandig. Bazz had some of his powers stolen by Yawatch, as he had used Oswalin to redistribute the life force and power of the Sternritter in the Siriidii in order to revive the defeated Schutzstaffel. However, despite getting hit by Oswalin, he merely lost his ability to use Quincy, Volstandig. Quincy, Volstandig. Bazz Quincy, Volstandig grants him a spiky Heiligenschein in the shape of the Quincy Zaichin and 2 wings in the shape of long, thin rods. Enhanced Burner Finger 1, while his Quincy, Volstandig is active, Bazz can fire multiple Burner Finger 1 beams in rapid succession. Enhanced Speed, Bazz becomes much faster while his Quincy, Volstandig is active, allowing him to appear behind and grab Ichigo Kurosaki before the latter could even react. Flight, using his wings, Bazz can fly at high speeds.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.